So here we are, sharing secrets of the soil with me, your host, Regen Ray.
G'day soil lovers and welcome to the Secrets of the Soil. I'm your host, Teale Simmons.
Oh my God,
it's a bit of a different voice.
Welcome, Teale.
G'day Ray. I guess I actually told a fib there before. I don't know. Oh no, it's still the Secrets of the Soil podcast.
For my audience.
For a while. Yeah, but we're looking at creating a new segment called Regen Hour or something like that. Yeah, so the point of this segment is that we'll be looking at I don't know, just a bit more of a casual chat between myself and Ray. Yeah, what do you reckon, Ray?
I love it. This is why we're here. We've moved all my set around. We've moved screens. We've moved everything to make this work. And I think the reason why is because over the years that we've been working together, there's a common thread. Like we keep asking the same questions and, you know, we just feel like it's time to talk about like our thoughts and who we've met, our story, give our opinions if you want to listen to it. But also, just bring in a different type of conversation that is a little bit more of, you know, sometimes here in the office, you think one way, I think another way. Yet we're both on the regenerative journey.
Feelings.
Talk about our feelings, you know, fist pump it out. And, you know, the ups and downs of the entrepreneurship journey, which is very similar to the regenerative journey. You know, I think there's lots of similarities and maybe no accident that from my entrepreneurial spirit has led me to this point of doing regen. You know, I find that there's a lot of similarities, but like you're saying before, you know, like sometimes people, I guess in my own audience, don't really, like I've never been interviewed, you know, and things like that. So like there's this ability to open and speak more from the heart. Like we have no scripts. We've got maybe like a light agenda, like, you know, a few dot points.
So it could go really well or really bad.
Well, knowing how much we've hung out with each other, I think it's going to go really well. Yeah. A bit of confidence there. But yeah, I think it's, you know, maybe to start off is like, do you want to share how we met?
Yeah. So if you've been a long time listener, I was interviewed. It was like the 8th or so, something around there. So I was 8th guest on the podcast, and so way back. Actually, do you want to start with you because I think go in timeline.
Yeah, well,
then
because it was COVID and that old chestnut and we were on a Zoom call and it was like
natural sequence farming.
Yeah,
it was like a mastermind for that. I don't think it ended up going anywhere, but we just like had a bunch of different...
We went somewhere.
Oh, yeah. A bunch of different minds in the regen ag space on this one call. And we're talking about... I think we were thinking of an idea, trying to set up like an educational piece for younger...
Yeah, I was trying to get the younger people in like a youth regen kind of model. But what stood out to me is that your marketing. You were on the call with a branded banner in the background with your logo, and you had your YouTube channel link or something there. And so while this call was happening, I was like, oh, look at this clever guy. He's got like, you know, this YouTube branding, and like, you know, with my marketing brain, it stood out that, you know, you always be marketing yourself, you know, even if you are just a participant in a Zoom room, you had your brand in. And I was like, this is smart, you know. And then I think I chatted to you on the side going, just subscribe to your YouTube channel. Like, you know, I love your background and like it's good marketing. And I think that was the start of the conversation because then I kind of said something about like, it's so refreshing to see so many young people or younger people coming into the regen ag, because previous to that, I'd been hanging around groups where, you know, and even the average farmer is, you know, like 50 plus type of average. And there was this kind of like, well, this is the way we've always done it. And, you know, 6 generations we've done this. And then I was like, oh, young ideas are coming through. And I wanted to encapsulate that on the podcast. So I kind of reached out and said, given that you're, you know, because you introduced yourself in that room and you said you're like 5th generation farmer.
Yeah.
And you could see the way that, you know, your parents were running the farm maybe wasn't as aligned with the regen movement, and you were kind of curious about that. And I thought, oh, what a great topic to unpack, that you've got someone who's got lineage, farm access and soil knowledge or lack of soil knowledge or whatever you want to call it, kind of saying, I want to do it differently. Because I think often people fall into, well, I just do it the way that it's always been done. And so that was the peak of the interest of like, let's have a chat and a conversation.
Yeah. So I guess for a bit of context, I finished high school in 2020, And then I'm like, well, I got all this, knowledge about agriculture because I took ag in school. I'm like, well, I might as well start a YouTube channel because there's no other YouTube channels with HSC, so high school agriculture. I'm like, well, I might as well be that person because, I did chemistry and physics and they had, teachers teaching stuff on YouTube. It was all free. So I wanted to be, I guess, that voice. So I started just making HSC syllabus content. So chemical properties of soil, physical properties of soil, what's texture, all these kind of things. And then I started down, I guess, really, marketing the Regen Ag, things. Like what is Regen Ag, what is soil health, all that. Which got me invited to that mastermind. And so on that mastermind, I had Agriculture Explained, which is the YouTube channel, in the banner. And that was the banner I guess Ray was talking about. But I guess for you, prior to meeting on that mastermind Zoom call, where'd you come from?
Yeah, so I think I was digital marketing entrepreneurship kind of background, the tech startup. No soil. And, in hindsight, I can see and reflecting it, there's a lot of similarities. But previously to that, was marketing, started a small little freelance agency in Melbourne. And one of the clients that I was working with was the Farming Secrets brand. And what happened to me is that, I was watching the content to create sales letters or, email marketing stuff or YouTube, short and shareable content. And I was watching this content going, how is this captured in 2000 and something? And we're now 2020 something, 2020, 2021, all the COVID period. And I was like, how is this not common knowledge? Why is this secret? Why is this on, if people have been talking about this for, 20 years and calling it all different things, I got kind of that aha moment of, there has to be a better way. And that kind of started my curiosity to soil. And this is why I say, keep digging deeper, because that's what I did. I just, one rabbit hole down to another, and food nutrition and health and well-being and the biome and the biology and, all this stuff. And then, going down the microscope world and seeing the life in the soil. It all just came from being curious of going, if this is true, what else? If this is true, what else? And I just kept going, what else? And I became a sponge and got really addicted, I guess, to wanting to absorb as much as I possibly could. In fact, I remember this moment during a time over those years where I literally gave away all my business books. So I had a whole collection of business books that would move from one house to another. And I just went, I already, all this is on YouTube. I already know all this stuff. I don't need to lug these books around anymore. And I messaged someone I knew who was interested in all that. And it's hey, do you want all my books? Give them away, take them a freebie, take them. I want shelf space, and I wanted shelf space so I could fill that with soil books. Yeah. And, I think, maybe that's kind of a lesson there in a way where sometimes you got to let go of something to create this space for new, to come in. And so, sometimes I regret some of those books I gave away because I'm damn, I need that book or I want to show someone else. And sometimes I think I still have them. I'm I've got that book. I'm oh, no, I don't. I gave it away. But, now my shelves are filled with a mix of soil and business and marketing books. But it was really just kind of this curiosity of understanding that soil was a living organism and that, we treated it like dirt for too long. And for many years, I was on this quest to find what the purpose was and who I helped and things like that. And then it kind of just dawned on me, and it's I don't want to help the who, I want to help the soil. Yeah. And so that's why now basically, with the podcast, or previously I used to have a business and marketing podcast. And then I basically over the last 5 to 6 years pivoted or transformed all of the things that I'm doing for it to have a thread in soil. And so now soil has become the common denominator in the projects that we've worked on together, the podcast, the marketing agency now only works with soil-based businesses or soil healing businesses. So I just really kind of said, I want to wake up every day to make soil better today than what it was yesterday. And that's kind of what got me, hooked on that, but it all came from that entrepreneurial spirit and being curious cat wanting to kind of like know more and look at the other side of the coin and be that person to go, but why, you know, and ask that annoying questions.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so.
Do you remember like a very specific topic that got you like started on regen or soil health?
The actual topic.
Yeah, because I can very clearly remember learning about legumes in class, and it's just like, whoa, these plants can fix nitrogen, so I don't have to buy fertilizer. And it was just like that concept was just like mind blowing, because it's like, well, you got all these farmers applying all this fertilizer, but you can easily fix 150 kilos of nitrogen a hectare, which equates to like $150 of urea. So, it's like, that was just crazy, and it's like,
And it's funny that you say that because, like that is like as you were unpacking that, it kind of actually dawned on me on what the thing was that I kind of had that aha moment on. But it's like you're very business minded. I think when you look at soil, you look at the numbers and you go, if I can grow this, I'm going to save this much amount of money. And I see a lack of that in farming world sometimes. Like there is this kind of understanding of inputs and outputs, but no one bills their own time. So like a lot of farmers are basically charities to their business, and they don't know what their actual profit per acre is. They know how much they're spending per acre to put inputs and the protein value and the yield and all this other stuff, but very rarely do they know profit to acre. And so there was a presentation that I was watching. There was kind of two presentations. Jerry Benetti, which has passed away. And so like I was watching his content that was recorded by Farming Secrets, and I was like, holy moly, like this is such powerful stuff. And he's Italian. And I think what spoke to me was the fact that I was also Italian, surprise, and nothing's changed.
Talking with your hands.
But it was like how like food was like a love language, what I grew up in. And then there was some talks or some presentations that he delivered, but also some other people where they spoke about food as medicine. And that is kind of what intrigued me. And the fact that, the quality of the plant and the meat that was raised based on the plants that the meat ate. That concept of like, not what you are, what you eat, but what you ate, going that one step further to go like, what was the grass quality like that the cattle ate, or if I'm eating cabbages, like what was the biology of that soil and what was feeding the nutrients to that cabbage that I'm now eating. And that kind of pathway of like food as medicine, kind of blew my mind. And then discovering that, I don't know if you know there was a medicine, like is it penicillin or something that is actually created from a bacteria.
Penicillin.
Is it penicillin?
Yeah. So it was yeast or some type of fungi.
Yeah. And it comes from the soil. And I'm like, I don't know, that just kind of blew my mind. I'm like, here's this thing on our planet that covers so much of the surface. And we're too busy teaching kids that it's dirty and germy and dangerous and go wash your hands, yet it has so much life and beneficial, life in it. And it's also being used in the medical industry to create this amazing kind of breakthrough in medicine. And I had that kind of thought of like, maybe the answers that we seek is beneath our feet, and then I started learning about carbon, and I was like, it can sequester carbon. And I'm like, another problem we're battling with, and the soil solves it. And then I just went all in and went, soil is the bee's knees. And, and then I did a presentation called The Power of Soil. I really wanted to highlight and become like a spokesperson of soil. And someone recently said, oh, you're kind of like the PR guy for soil. You're out there giving soil a good name. And I kind of like that. And that's, where Secrets of the Soil podcast and the content that we've created and a lot of the stuff that we've done. So to answer your question in a very roundabout way, it was that food as medicine and the fact that food was like a love language in the, Italian way of my upbringing. Kind of that kind of was like, wow, this is cool stuff,
Yeah. I guess like just going back to what you were saying about what we know in the soil, like we don't know much in the soil. It's like I don't have a study to point to it, but I think the rough number is like 1%. We only know 1% of the microbes in the soil, which is crazy because we probably know more about what's in the ocean or the bottoms of the ocean or in outer space than we do about the soil.
Yeah, blows my mind.
Yeah, and like if we did know that, the rest, how much what new technologies or compounds, whatever, would we be able to find out about if we just knew that extra bit?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Like if all that money that we did to try and land on the moon or to, send things into orbit to take, photos that take weeks to beam the image back to Earth, I'm like, if we invested all that into like profiling our soils better or, and the good news is that it's changing. Like I think there are a lot of funds and innovations from government and key bodies that are changing that where the research money is going. It's not as big as it probably should be, but I think we're starting. We're starting to see the steps in the right direction, and so. And I agree. I think we know more about the deep oceans and Mars and the space than what we do, of the thing that like basically keeps us alive.
Yeah, true.
It's our lifeline.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, so with uni. So I'm just for context for everyone. Just finished my third year uni, coming Friday, and I'll be going on to honours looking at cover crops.
Wow.
But I was looking at like currently what the research around cover crops, like what there is. And GRDC, which is kind of the organisation that covers all grains and stuff in Australia, so they do all the research and the marketing and development and whatever for grains. So they ran a heap of different cover crop trials in 2017, and like really good results and stuff from that. So it's it's definitely like coming on board with I guess finding best practice for regenerative ag and improving soil health.
I think because we got so disconnected from the soil, like everyone, I think there was a time post-war where everyone was really reliant on the community garden or the village type of, ethos. And then supermarkets came out and people went, well, I don't need to know how to grow apples. It's just on a shelf. And that disconnection meant that people went more to how do we move an apple from one side of the world to the other logistically rather than focusing on what it's grown in, and like, so we went through this era where people didn't need to think about the soil and it was kind of just a given that it was just going to always produce. And then 50, 70 years later, we get into the point where so many farmers are walking off the land because they're just so depleted. And so, the fertility is lost or there's erosion happening and, topsoil's been washed out into the ocean. Yeah. And that was the wake up call to people to go, oh, maybe we need to look down rather than up.
Yeah, I think the stats 2/3 of all Australian soils are degraded.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think globally, isn't it?
I think Australia's a bit worse.
Okay.
It's just the nature of our soils and our climate.
Yeah.
It's a lot more brittle.
Yeah. And is that 2/3 of arable land or like actual potentially farmable land?
I think it's farmed land.
Yeah. Okay.
Farmed,
yeah.
Which
is crazy because like think about the fact that it's like we've identified this is all farmable land. Now we're going to stuff it up so much that 2/3 of it is now not farmable. Like we're literally into like the last chapter of 1/3 being left. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. And then I think the stat was 20 million hectares. I think a year is put out of production. Like for ag. I don't know if that's globally or just in Australia, but it's like it's a lot of land that's being put out of production because it's so unproductive.
Yeah. There'll be someone out there who fact checks anyway.
Oh yeah, probably, yeah.
Pop it in the comments, and that's the thing. It's not about being right. It's about whether it's globally, whether it's locally.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's alarming.
Yeah. It's a big amount.
Yeah. I agree. And the I think the other thing that I saw as well is the ego-ness of a lot of the people in this. Like not in a bad way, but I think the only way that I've been able to articulate it in a way is that there was a lot of net worth put on how busy the farmer was or how much they were inputting. Like I think the chemical companies did a really good job of
marketing it.
Like, Bob down the road's put in 14 a hectare. You want 15, and it's like there was almost like this kind of like one up on anyone. And like, how long were you on the tractor? Oh, it took me weeks to spray, and the harvester was running nonstop for 20 days. It's like we're working harder, not smarter.
Yeah, I think that's just not like farming. That's everyone. So I think
every industry.
We tie busyness to importance. It's like the more busy you are, the more important you are because you've got more things to do.
Yeah. And on the flip side, that it's bad to be like unemployed or you know, what do you mean you did nothing all afternoon? Like, you could have cleaned the dishes, you could have made your bed, you could have, like, what's wrong with rest? And I think that's one of the things that I learned with soil is the recovery and the rest period. You know, like when I did the holistic grazing course, you know, the whole concept of like overgrazing was not about putting the animal, like leaving the animal there too long. It was bringing it back too quickly, you know, not giving enough rejuvenation time for the roots to go deep and for the foliage to go up. And, you know, farmers might say, yeah, I only left them on the paddock for half a day, but then they brought it back a week later, you know, and that didn't allow everything to kind of repair. And I think we do the same. We are, I had 6 hours sleep, but then every other night you've only had 4 hours sleep. You know, we're not celebrating the rest and the pause, and nature does pause very well from what I can observe, you know, a bit deep and meaningful, but you know, I've been hanging around Zach Bush too much, which is a good thing.
Can't complain about that. Yeah. Actually, you just came back from an event with Zach Bush.
I did.
How's that?
Bloody out of the world, this world. Yeah, Byron Bay, Sydney, Australia, and it was called Reconnection, run by Farmers Footprints, which is Farmers Footprints Australia is the body that Zach Bush has put together. And I found out the other day that it's in New Zealand, Australia, America, and I think a couple of other places. Like, I think they've got like 5 different divisions, and it's his way of like basically like fast tracking the ability of his knowledge to be, you know, syndicated through the world and through thoughts. And yeah, so 800 and something people in this room in Byron Bay, lots of other speakers talking about some really amazing topics. But, you know, if you've heard Zach Bush speak, you know. If you haven't, please go find out. The way that he articulates things, the way that he speaks purely from like heart and soul and
science too.
Yeah.
Like I like that mix.
But it's so natural though. Like it's not like he's quoting facts and this research, that. He just has this really great way of telling a story and getting that real punchy point where I think some people miss the mark. They're like 19.364% of this equals this, and it's like they get so complicated through the smarts of like naming all the bacteria and what the miso of this, and you know, and people kind of get lost where he just tells it so well. I can't even do a good job of explaining how well he articulates things. He just knows how to hit people like where it matters. And yeah, but you're right, his science background, and I think that's what I like about him as well, is that he went and studied and learned medical, and he was treating cancer patients and went, you know, kind of just questioned the system, going, one, we're calling these patients kind of like numbers, and we're identifying them as their disease, you know, and as their, you know, this is a tumor in the lung patient, but what's their name, you know? And he just really struggled with that. And he's like, no, this is Mary, and, you know, they have 3 kids and da-da-da. And you know, the tumor should be the last thing you talk about. But obviously in the medical industry, you got to move in fast and know exactly what you're dealing with and make quick decisions. And he kind of went, no, maybe there's a different way. And he unpicked himself from that and started a whole heap of different ventures around. And he has his own lab, research lab, where he's now playing a very big part in understanding the links between soil biome and gut biome, which I also became very interested in. And, you know, even to the point where up until recently, the gut biome wasn't considered part of the human anatomy.
It's very important. Yeah, it controls your moods, and it's a big contributor to your immune system.
Yep.
Yeah. Massive.
Well, Zach will say the point that your gut is actually doing your thinking for your brain. So he has been able to find that your gut makes the decision first, and then your brain gives you the logic to decide that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, and that's like, you know, where that quote of like, I just got that gut feeling that wasn't the right thing to do. It's like you've put your feeling before the decision. So then I decided to say no to that project. And so he's been able to, you know, I don't know how they're doing it, but they're basically saying that if your gut is in a particular level of state, you're more likely to turn to drugs or could do crime or say yes to a bad thing than if your gut biome is of a different balance. And it's all got to do with like the chemicals that are going through your body, and, you know, mental health and depression and those things could actually be more of a gut, not a mind thing, you know. And so
it all comes back to soil.
And it all comes back to soil, you know, and the links between, what the biome that your food is grown in, or that even you hang out in. That's the other thing that's really important. And what I love about Zach is whenever he goes to any event, he stands at the front and hugs every single person in the room, because he believes that as he travels along his quest of this earth, he wants to, cross, I don't know how you explain
it. Like there's many
collect the biomes.
Microbes,
yeah, biomes. It's like when you hug, it's very intimate, and you're exchanging biome, the air that you breathe, like that's why people go and do like earth bathings or like nature bathings, where they go and just sit in nature and absorb whatever that is, energy, aura, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to do. Maybe it's just about change of scenery and it's more of what your mind looks at, but there's lots of studies about like offices that have more plants in them, just because of that tone of green, the people perform differently,
Oh, right, yeah.
Warm color lighting as opposed to, white lighting, can change the way that people do their productivity, the way that they feel, the stress on their eyes, So I think if, we have this ability to bathe ourselves in nature and collect more of that kind of whatever it is could only be a good thing. Whether it works or not, who cares?
For sure.
But the thing is that they're proving that it is working.
Yeah, and at the very least, you get a nice placebo effect.
That's right. But I have to say, like, coming back from that event, spending time in Byron Bay, and, I had Purpose Conference the week before, like that as well. Like, I was just emerged in so much amazingness. It was very easy to just not be in front of the computer. Like there was just this, like I came back, I said, like, I've got to fire up my butt, fire up my ass, because I'm like, I was like leaving the conference, or that conference was wrapping up, and I'm like messaging people going, we need to move on this project now. Like, time is now. Like, let's just run with it, and even doing this podcast, I find it very interesting that we've been speaking about it for, a little while, and finally doing it. And it is like literally the week of coming back from that conference and realizing that we need to have people out there being able to encourage people to just think a bit differently, work smarter, not harder, change their thought, make one decision different for what they put on the plate tonight. Those little things do matter,
Yeah, for sure.
It's cool.
That was a good tangent. Well, if I suddenly I'll smoothly transition to to our next bit. Let's go back. So you had your marketing, learnt about soil. We met. We had our. I came on the podcast. Ray invited me onto the podcast. And then what happened?
Then you kept saying yes to everything. So every time we're like, well, I think we both said yes to things. We kind of, I don't know what did we, I don't know how we actually did it. Did we have some kind of planning meeting? Like, I feel like we did the podcast and there was a couple other chats, and there was like this moment where we're like, I don't know what it is, but there's this kind of thing saying that we should work together. Yeah. There was like this feeling. Maybe it was like the whole gut feeling thing, but there wasn't really something that happened, unless you can remember.
Yeah, no, I was I think I went for a run, and when you go for a run or you do some exercise and you're really thinking. So I went for a run. I'm like, oh, how cool would it be if we could have a piece of land? And even though I come from a farming background, it's very difficult to get a piece of land that you can kind of manage. And all the farmers listening out there, or the young farmers, are like, it's when your parents are doing things a particular way. And it's easy to put my parents are doing things a particular way. My parents are they were organic, free-range pigs. Like, they were very they knew about the soil health, and so they weren't applying herbicide. Even with that, we didn't really spray anything because it wasn't necessary for pigs. But it would have been cool to have a farm where it's just you just do all your cool ideas, all your cool regen ag ideas. You can do natural sequence farming and holistically graze stuff and all that.
Sandbox.
Yeah.
Just playing the sandpit.
Yeah. So basically, that's what Ray and I bonded over. Like, what can we do together to kind of achieve this and bring all these people on board? Yeah. So we started the Trees project to plant a heap of trees, which is we're planting the trees now after a few years. So we launched that, and we're getting Michael Taylor to plant those. It's been pretty good, long ride, but
I think that's testament to the the kind of thing of just keep going. You know what I mean? Like I think that's why when we first started chatting, it was like I said before that you kept saying yes to my crazy ideas, but it was like there was not just a yes, there was actually the do. You know, and I think that was you like I remember like once I did the road trip and I came to your property. And within about 4 hours, we had like domain name, website set up, theme, content. I'm like, this is the fastest I've ever moved on like a new business idea.
Yeah,
and it was because like we did less planning and more doing.
Yeah.
You know, we had the idea, we knew what we wanted to do. But I think, did we do the Meta Farms project first and then Meta Trees, or did we did Meta Trees and then Meta Farms?
It was Meta Trees and Meta Farms.
Yeah. So we did the trees with the. So how was that going to get us a land?
Yeah, so the initial idea was the funds raised was going to buy the place to kind of do this regenerative project on. And so long story short, we didn't really reach the amount required to do that. So we just committed to planting trees.
Which is still really good.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know about the Meta Trees program, it was during the time where NFTs and crypto was booming.
Yeah.
And it's going to boom again, so we say. Yeah. But I say to Teale all the time, like doing the Meta Trees project was probably like one of my most proudest business ventures because we were at the start where no one knew what they were doing. You know, like we had to write a smart contract and we solved that problem. We had to get artwork done and we solved that problem. And we're delegating tasks to people on the other side of the world that we kind of just putting our trust in and hope they don't scam us, you know. And we just kept moving forward. And like, I remember it was March 20 something. Like I remember March was our launch.
21.
And we woke up early that morning and we like got together here in Sydney because at this point I'd moved. And there was just this moment of like, we did it. Like, it doesn't matter what we sold. We executed.
We launched the project. Yeah,
you know, and we set it to the end. And like I just like, it was that drew me to like wanting to do things with you and work with you because it was like, we're not just going to sit in a boardroom and plan on a whiteboard.
Yeah, business plans that always get wrecked anyways.
And we came up with a little catchphrase. It was like less suits and more boots, you know. Yeah. I don't know when we did that, but it was like, let's do less suit stuff, like being in a boardroom with like whiteboards and do more like feet on the ground, walk with the farmer, visit the farmer and get shit done, you know? So that was like a cool, and I always say like, it's very unique because like one, you're in a younger mindset than most people that I were hanging around with at that time. And you had this kind of one ability to understand numbers and stock market and crypto, and we geeked out on all that stuff. And then you had this kind of connection to soil and land and, you know, sharing land and doing tree planting. And I was like, this is like I've met my mirror, my younger mirror, you know what I mean? So I think that's where there was like a lot of that kind of synergy of, I know something great was going to happen there. And I don't know if we've hit that yet, but I think it's definitely coming.
It's coming, yeah.
You know, it's definitely coming.
Keep hustling away.
You know, and we've been able to, you know, move our projects into different things. And so then we did the land sharing, we did Meta Farms, and we're going to go buy a farm together, which is still the goal. Like, I think like all those who are listening, like watch this space because, you know, I have no doubt that somewhere in the future there will be a parcel of land that we co-manage and you know, become the pinnacle. Like for me, I think that was like one of the things, like I always want to have a showcase land, you know, that had a learning center on it that people could come and, you know, go out to the paddock and scoop up some soil and go look at it under a microscope and go, wow, that test paddock has got pesticides on it. This one has got herbicides on it. This one has got urea on it.
Yeah.
This one has got bare soil. This one, you know, and you can go there and do like, you know, it's just basically like a Disneyland for soil lovers. Maybe I'm building what I want. Let me know if you're a soil lover out there and you think that we should build a Disneyland for
soil.
Yeah, for soil.
Yeah.
Call it Soil Land.
No, I think a lot of people would be like really interested in that, especially when it's nice to go like have these kind of wooey ideas, but to have actual evidence to go, you know, when I do an infiltration test with bare soil or like the rain test or whatnot, and you can see very clearly that the bare ground, the water coming off that area is all like grey, and you know you'll have all that soil particles suspended in the water. Versus if you have a bit of litter and it's, you know, the water's a bit clearer and you have living roots and a cover crop or just like perennial pasture, and it's coming out like crystal clear. Like it's really good,
almost drinkable.
Yeah. And so it's, having that experience and to be able to test those ideas on somewhere else in the soil wonderland kind of area.
I agree. And I think taking people through that and showing them and see their face lights up to go, wow, that makes sense,
They get it.
And so, so I think having that wonderland on that land or that soil, farmland that we can get our hands dirty and do all crazy experimental things is the end goal, the big vision. But what's keeping us busy now?
Yeah, so we've moved into helping other farmers expand their farm by allowing people that really passionate about soil and soil health and wanting to see soil health improve, allowing them to co-own this farm with the excellent farmer. Yeah, so that's been keeping us pretty busy, as I'm still doing Agriculture Explained and making content there, and doing the podcast
and uni.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all symbiotic. It all helps everything grow.
Yeah. And you and your busyness are just reminded me then you were also helping your parents at the farmers markets here in Sydney. How was it being connected to the customer side of that journey as well? Like, what were you seeing their response, and what was it like being in the farmers market scene?
Yeah. So, this would have been almost 14 months ago.
Yeah.
So we recently got out of pigs, not for any particular reason, just parents wanted a change in scenery. And so, during that time I was working at a farmer's market, so we would get one of the pigs, one of our porkers, cut up and prepared, and we'd come down to Everleigh Carriage Works markets and have a little storefront there, and I'd get to interact with all the customers that were really passionate about sustainable products, really good products that are good for the environment and for their own health. It was a really cool market. Also to talk to the other store holders, to hear what they're doing and how people are really interested in buying that nutrient dense food from all the store holders.
Yeah. And do you think that people who were buying, because I use the word conscious consumer, like people who were kind of lifting their conscious awareness of food, purchasing power, do you feel like people were asking better questions, or were they still like caught up on why does this cut cost more than the butcher down the road? Or
there's a little bit of that. I think for people that don't come off farms or aren't really connected to food systems, it is a learning curve. Like, I guess it's easy. I think a lot of people know, there's some roasts. There's some cuts of meat that you roast and some barbecue cuts, but to know why and how, or even the reason, I guess, different farming practices affect the quality of a product. So with our pigs, and if anyone has had free range pork before, you'd know that when you compare between free range pork and intensive pork, it's like the intensive pork has like a really weird, like almost dirty flavor about it. Whereas when you have free range pork, it's like a nice clean, like it tastes clean. It's weird to pinpoint, and if you haven't had lots of free range meat, like, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But there's a really there's a clean taste about it. It's also a bit family because pigs can walk around, and I think there's a big iron content increase in free range pigs because they can eat the soil.
Yep.
It's a big difference, especially in pigs. Yeah.
And I think that you make a great point there on the fact that you have to experience it. And I think you can forget very quickly. And when I did the road trip and came and visited your farm and a whole heap of other farmers, I was drinking tank water.
Yeah, rainwater.
Rainwater,
I can't stand tank water.
I know. Luckily for you have access to it all the time.
Yeah.
But when I got back from that trip, I didn't realize. So city, drink, whatever, water quality. And then I went on the road trip, drink, water, whatever. But then when I got back, just turning the tap on, I could smell the difference.
Yeah.
And you could taste the difference. And it made me realize that sometimes you really need to remove yourself from that pattern. And you might not even realize that it's changed when you go to the stuff that's pure. It's when you go back to the other stuff that you kind of went, oh my God, I forgot that. But the thing is give it a week and you're back to not
very adaptable.
Very adaptable, And so, I do drink tap water and I don't have the ability to get clean rainwater. But it was just that kind of lesson that I learned to go, I went into this environment that had better quality water and I didn't realize. And it was only when I came back that I realized that was cleaner, or, better. and less chemically smelling. Because like the chlorine smell was just so potent, but now I can't pick it up. You know, like it's just so easy to forget. I think where else in our systems have we been giving people bad tasting carrots, bad tasting apples?
Oh, you don't realize,
and no one knows. You know, they just go, "Oh, that's a carrot. That's an apple."
It will taste the same.
All taste the same.
Until you're on the good stuff.
Yeah. You know, so or then you know got to go to the good stuff, and then you go back to the bad stuff and go, "Oh my god, this carrot has no flavor." You know, but sorry, carrots, for your bad example. Eat more carrots. It's good for your sight, apparently. I don't think that's ever even been proven, to be honest.
No, I think. Oh, don't quote me on this. Don't fact check me. I thought it was a counterpoint back in the army, like World War II or something. Right. They needed a reason of why their pilots were so much better.
Right.
In reality, they had like a better technology thing, but they just said all the pilots were eating all these carrots.
Yeah, right.
And so improved their eyesight. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there might be a reason.
Well, you know that story, and I've been kind of told somewhere along the lines that it's never actually been proven the carrots improve your eyesight. So where else has that been done? You know, where else are we being told something is good or bad, and it's not actually backed by anything? It's just
the way it's been done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong about the carrot story. I've got no idea.
Maybe we're all wrong about everything. You know, because we haven't discovered what's right yet either. So, you know, I think at one point, I think that's the one thing I've realized in this soil journey is that, you know, there was a time where fertilizers came in and everything went green. And they even called it the green revolution because all the paddocks turned this nitrate green. It's got an actual color and it works.
Yeah, it works.
And then 50 years later, that works, but it's done some other thing that now it's not working. You know, so everything's always true in the moment. And then you zoom out and you see the entire ecosystem getting affected by that. And I think we'll go deeper in some of those things in other episodes.
Other rants,
you know. But yeah, no, I think that's I think the only other thing I want to kind of talk about is why soil. Like, why did you get so interested in soil? Like, what? Because I feel like I've spoken about it and how I got it. But where was that moment for you to go, I want to go down this soil regen?
Well, yeah, I think for me, I personally don't like doing the same thing every day. And it's like just this roundabout thing and nothing really changes. And so when I looked at like some of these farming systems, you look at a farm and it's like, you know, nothing's really improving. It's the same. It's like, you know, year in, year out, you're doing the same thing. And for me, I find that a little bit boring. But what excited me about soil health was that it's something on your farm that you can actually improve. So you start with maybe a degraded piece of soil, and every year it's getting a bit better and better and better, and you can see that improvement. And so it's that kind of improvement and regeneration. I mean, that's what regeneration or regenerative ag means, like to improve something. That's what excited me. And the fact that, you know, soil has this ability to be improved. Yeah, that kind of what got me down this path. And what improves soil health? What does this do for our farming systems? Yeah, soil health is a really interesting thing that's going on at the moment, where, you know, it increases profitability in the long run, and you're also increasing the value of something. So it's like with fertilizer, for example. Not all fertilizer is bad. Just to put out there, and it's very important that we have fertilizer, and we wouldn't be able to feed everyone. Without it, it's just, you know, right amount, right time, and all that. But back in the day when they originally brought out fertilizer, a lot of the benefits you're seeing were the decomposition of soil organic matter, and so you're getting all these great crop responses, but you're also depleting your soil, you know, at the same time. So you're not getting long-term benefits, but you are getting short-term benefits. Well, with soil health, you're getting short-term and long-term, which is crazy.
So why doesn't everyone just go all in?
I don't know. I think it's very scary, I guess, to change different practices on your farm. And like looking at cover crops, and you go, like the biggest problem with cover crops in Australia is the use of water. So we're very water limited. And so when you're planting a crop that's going to use water, and you go, you know, it's going to use water, it's scary. Like it's very easy to go, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to do what's worked in the past.
I find that so crazy that you'd rather leave it bare and have the sun bake the biology and evaporate all the water.
Yeah, but it's what you know. Like if you're not really seeing soil as a biological thing, like typically you only see it as, you know, it's chemical components and a physical means of growing plants. You're not really considering this biological aspect of it. When you're not considering that, you go, well, the only effect that the sun has is going to lose. You're going to, it's going to evaporate the soil. But it's a lot of farmers they go, oh, it's fine. This is just the way it is.
Because I think that's been one of the things that I observed as well is that this ability of this thought that what you plant is competing with your other crop. Like with a cover crop, like you're saying, it's going to consume the water or the moisture that's in the soil. But like on the flip side of that, maybe I'm just seeing biased information, but what I understand is that one, you're putting an armor over the soil. So now you're stopping it from getting baked by the sun.
Yeah.
But then also every morning you get this free dew that kind of condensates onto the grass blades and drips into your soil. And so that's putting moisture back in rather than taking. So even if it is taking, if that's the mindset you have, I can't see it not be a plus kind of system rather than a negative, kind of system.
It depends on the year, I think. So that GRDC study I was talking about, they found that it was like 50 to 7% of the time a cover crop works better on an individual year.
Right.
I'm not too sure about long-term effects. Like I know that it increases soil water holding capacity, increases infiltration, but on a year-to-year basis, just looking at like the weather and the amount of rain you get, it works like 50-70% of the time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like in my mind, it's not too hard. Like even if you hear that something could potentially be a benefit to your farm, just trialing it. Like, it's not too hard to do like one strip of cover crops and see if it works, and if it's, terrible that year. You did 100 meters worth of trials.
I worry that people who go into trials like that, who don't believe it, set it up to fail.
Oh, okay.
Because they look for all the evidence to say why it didn't work, rather than, because this is my big kind of qualm with, hypothesis first in science. It's like all the data that doesn't support your hypothesis gets omitted and goes into a bin. But there's like the flip side of the research where it's like, here's all the reasons why what I'm saying is not true, So it's like, that's someone else's research that no one's willing to fund.
But you can't say, don't do trials because...
No, I'm not saying that, but I think
it's more mindset. You got to make sure your mindset's, in the right place. Like you're going, I'm doing this thing, what am I going to find? It might fail, but is there any other things that it's going to improve? Why? But looking at 1,000 hectare farm, it's very scary to go, I'm gonna invest a lot of money to plant the seed, and then run the tractor over it, and then might take away from the next crop. Like it's a very scary conversation.
And also more scarier when so many farmers have a massive mortgage to the farm as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that when I first came into this space, everyone was like tired and overworked, underpaid or not paid, getting like off-farm jobs. And the banks were knocking on the door saying, you're 3 months behind, like we're going to take your farm type of fear, tactics. And I can completely understand why farmers will go, well, I can do the way that I've always done and get X amount in next season, and I'm going to stick to what I know rather than break that pattern. And I think...
You can't blame them.
No, not at all. That's why I think everyone's made the bet. Like, I've heard it many times, like no one wakes up going, let me see what I can go kill on my farm today, whether it be biology, plant, tree, or, livestock. But the zoomed out long-term effect of like what a lot of the practices have done, whether it be tilling or like spraying or whatever, compaction, water erosion, like it is somewhat destroying these ecosystems that we don't really see with our own eyes anymore. So that's, whether it be a bug or a beneficial bug or, a bird or, a snake or whatever it is that's on the farm, it all needs to be there in balance,
Yeah.
And
we all do the best we can with the knowledge we have.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think the openness to see the coin from the other side is the one thing that I encourage people to do, to say like, it's okay that you have your worldview, but maybe there's also this other worldview, because you've just told me that you look over the fence and their neighbour's paddocks are green and yours are brown.
You ask yourself.
You got to ask why.
Yeah, not that it just rained more over there.
And the soil types are the same and the area is the same, and because a lot of times people go, oh yeah, but that works in that climate. But what I think is happening now is that there's so many farms where there is just the fence line, the cliche fence line picture where one side's green and one side's not. And the farmer has to sit there going, we're in the same climate, same zone, same everything, yet this is green and this is not. You've got feed, I'm destocking. What's the difference? And then people are asking those questions and going, yeah, I heard about that 20 years ago and now I'm interested,
to
learn more. So that's the openness to acknowledge that. So, any final thoughts before we wrap this conversation up? Have we hit on everything you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, well, just pointing to that point, comparing like your farms, it is very difficult to compare like a northern region to a southern region, especially a northern New South Wales versus southern New South Wales, where your rainfall comes in at a different time of year, and when you're growing plants like wheat during winter, like it's a big difference in your management practices when you got to consider winter rain versus summer rain. But yeah, when it's the paddock or the farm next door and they're doing it successfully, you got to ask yourself, what's going on there? What's actually happening? Yeah.
Agreed. But also on that note, not to add more to it, but one of the things I want to talk about is I think a lot of people are farming a particular product because that's what they told that they got to farm in that land. Got to remember we have European settlement and we put a big European kind of farming method on a land. And maybe we're just not meant to grow wheat in that area and forget about the rain. Maybe it's a native grass that we then grain and turn that into flour, not growing wheat, just as another food for thought. Yeah. And there is a lot of people researching that now, more native grasses and going back to say like, species that were existing before, with working with First Nation and bush food and things like that. There's a whole bakery in Sydney that sells all their bread from a grain that comes from a grass seed that is grown in Victoria, I believe. And it's a native grass that is seeds all year round because it's designed to grow here. I think so, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. That's what I mean. So like these things are changing. Like maybe we're not meant to grow wheat at the volume that we're growing it because we're meant to have looked at the land and say, well, this grass can be grained into a flour that we then create this whole other native flour industry and we eat rice and pasta and this using this grain rather than flour.
Yeah, as long as there's money in it. Yeah. Because there's no point doing things on your farm that are going to make you money.
But there's probably no money in wheat when it first came to Australia anyway. Like it was all a bit of a risk, like spin the wheel, you're a wheat farmer. Spin the wheel, you're a sheep farmer. Like everyone kind of got appointed it was all part of the
free. What they brought across from.
Yeah, but people got allotted land growing for the government. It's like, you get freeholding land, but you need to produce X amount of sheep every year. Like that was the agreement.
Yeah, actually, a crazy thing with that, you had to plough up your land for you to own it.
Wow.
Yeah. So a mate of mine, his family farm, like the conditions were if you can plough it, you can have it. And so there's like up on a hillside, which is you would never take a tractor up there. But back in the day, if you had
I would take that offer these days. I would take that offer these days because, obviously land prices and access to land is extremely difficult. And yeah, it blows my mind that somewhere in in the past, it was like basically people were given land in order to solve a food shortage problem of some sort. But again, I think it was on the mindset of like, here's all these Europeans who eat pasta and who eat bread. We need wheat and we're going to grow it here. And
this
now,
is what they knew.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Again, but maybe the answer to that problem they were trying to solve was actually this grass in the paddocks that they ploughed up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'd be keen to look at that. If you can make more money and reduce your inputs and whatnot and cover all year round, it would be a no-brainer doing that. As long as it works.
Yeah, but just asking different questions and solving problems, because I think that is a better future than some of the things that I'm hearing from like the tech, ag, fake food movement, where they're creating not just fake meat, but there is a movement of like, let's create this mush-looking substance that is kind of like carbohydrates, but it's grown in like a lab through synthetics. It kind of looks like carbs, tastes carbs, but isn't technically natural carbs. It's synthetic carbs. And from this glump, call it mashed potato. I don't know, but you can't call it mashed potato because it's not potato, but you can make all the carbs products from it.
Yeah,
so you can process this syrup or this kind of glump into pasta, rice, bread, and all this other carbohydrated stuff because of this compound thing that's made in a lab. I'd much rather experiment with like native grass seeds
for sure,
than this other. And that's what I worry that the grass seed people are, because you say there's more money in it, but there isn't going to be more money in it unless people research that this is the next crop that's going to boom. Like, because I feel like we can manufacture demand when we make something like important, so, because like, look what happened with the fake meat companies, they're all boomed over the last 3 or 4 years and now they're all barely holding on to bankruptcy.
I don't think anyone Eats it.
You know what I mean? So it's like the intent was there and you can make anything boom, but the proof's in the pudding of the longevity. And yeah, I don't know. I guess like from a future food system that I would like to live in, it's not things being manufactured in a lab that comes out looking like pasta, but never saw sun or soil.
Yeah. The other thing about that is there's a lot of factors that we probably don't know about and that we can't measure at the moment. Yeah. So it's always important to consider, even though you can't really consider it, the unknowns.
Yeah. So you're saying like by consuming that kind of food might look good on the surface to feed the world.
It might check all our boxes in terms of like, it has protein, it has carbohydrates, so much fiber, like everything we need. But maybe in 10 years' time, we find out we actually need this component that you only get from soil.
Yeah.
And it's like a critical part of our biology. So it's like we just don't. Back to that point where we only know 1% of the soil. It's like there's 99% of stuff that we don't know. Maybe that's like critical to our growth and development. It's like you just don't know.
Agreed. And just because we haven't created the device to measure it yet, or find it yet, or detect it yet, doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah.
So.
For sure.
Cool.
Good rants.
On that note, let's wrap this up. Thank you everyone for joining in, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on this kind of style of conversational banter with Teale and myself. Any final words?
I promise it will be more educational next time.
That was very educational from my point of view anyway. But no, what we plan on doing is going through some like specific topics and going deep on that exploration, and maybe we will even bring some third-party guests and opinions into it as well. So we'll see how we go, and maybe we turn this into a live show one day as well, where you can interact with us. But the more listeners that listen, the more we know that you are receiving this positively, and we will shape this into the Regenerative Hour of some sort. This is the name that we're going for.
Yeah, for sure. And also, if you have any questions, send them in. I don't know where to send them, but comments or just
tag,
contact
comment.
us. Yeah,
look for Regen Ray, look for Teale Simmons.
Yeah, we'll answer your questions the best we can.
I'd rather questions from people in the community than all the spam stuff I get. So
yeah, for sure.
If the spammers can find me, then you can too.
Yeah, true.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Teale, and everyone for listening. Are we going to say my catchphrase?
Yeah,
what do you say?
Yeah, get outside and get your hands dirty.
Nailed it. All right, see you later, soil lovers. Take care.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Well, soil lovers, that's enough secrets for one episode. I really hope that you enjoyed all the secrets shared during this conversation. But hey, let's not keep it a secret. Please share this podcast around and make sure that you like it and leave us a review, because that really helps spread the secrets of the soil. Until next time, remember, get outside, get your hands dirty, and keep digging deeper into your soils.